W3JAGE. What is going on, ladies and gentlemen? We are back for another episode of Cup of Joe with Web3JOE. That's Web3 Job Ops and Events, your hub, home base, and headquarters for all things Web3 talent and recruitment. They power these spaces that we host every Wednesday, every Friday, 9:30 a.m. Pacific, 12:30 p.m. Eastern, where we bring on your favorite Web3 leaders to talk about how you can land your dream job over a cup of coffee. Now, the cup of coffee is optional, but either way, we appreciate you listening, whether that's here live on X, whether that's on the recording on X, or on the recording that we upload to YouTube and Spotify. We appreciate it all, and we hope you're getting some value out of it. We got a very special guest with us here today. He's a contributor over at Third Web. He's the founder of Revv, and he's just an all-around great person to know in Web3 and beyond. Mr. JRP, how are you doing, bro? Happy Friday. Thank you for hanging out with us for a bit.
Yo, what's up, man? I'm doing great. It's a great day to have a great day. And I cannot be more excited for the space. I think it's finally going to get to a point where we're seeing jobs, get filled by, more quicker, and we'll see more jobs start to grow. And in my opinion, being on Twitter now is like a job. You can get paid for it. And I think that a lot more will come from it. Funnily enough, I'm currently hiring for 2 roles. And so I am currently deep in hiring and reviewing and deciding on who to bring onto my team, on the business team, and also to help manage our socials at Third Web, and cooking up some stuff with Revv as well. And happy to dive into all of that. But it's great to be here. Thanks for inviting me, man. I do have my cup of Joe, so I'll be enjoying that and sipping on that.
Beautiful, bro. Beautiful. Appreciate you stopping by again. I know you're a busy man. Always a pleasure to chop it up with you. Always great to see you at events and seeing you around. I know you're cooking. So again, thank you for stopping by. Thank you for the insights and looking forward to get into it. And I agree. I think it's an important conversation to have. I think oftentimes there can be a lot of focus on just the making money via trading aspect of this world that we're in, which you and I both love and appreciate. But I also think that a lot of people can benefit from understanding the opportunity that exists on the professional side and what you can do if you create a good balance between those two things, right? And just be that much more sustainable, be that much more valuable, help push the space forward if that's something you're into doing, obviously. And shout out to you. I actually just saw this tweet today because we like to share a few tweets from our guests up top. If you're listening, there's make sure to jump over to JRP's page. There's a tweet pinned up top where he is actually hiring for his company Revv. So where else to get an idea on how to get hired in Web3 than from somebody who is, guess what, hiring in Web3. Let's go ahead and get into it. Mr. JRP, I did my best to give an intro, but let's hear it in your own words. For the people listening, can you let us know who you are, what you do, and how you started doing it?
Yeah, of course. We are hiring at Third Web, not Rev, but like one of the same coin.
Copy.
Okay. My name is Juan. I go by JRP. I started off in the space during COVID, investing in an NBA Top Shot, and fell in love with the tech. I understood that like this was probably going to be a decade long journey. It was a journey that I wanted to be on. It was an emerging market, and wanted to take steps there. So the first thing I started doing was just learning like what is an NFT, what are tokens, what is blockchain. And for my senior project, while I was in college around 3 years ago, I ended up starting my own Axie Infinity Guild. And that Axie Infinity Guild allowed me to really dive deeper into the space, specifically gaming. And gaming was obviously blowing up. Axie Infinity kind of showed us something that never happened before in the world. And so, I decided to dive deeper into infrastructure little by little. I started off with the Axie Infinity Guild. When that kind of started to really kind of go downhill, I ended up joining a infrastructure company for NFT rentals. After that infrastructure company, I decided to actually move to Puerto Rico and start my own company, Revv, which is still ongoing today, and some exciting things there, before joining a Third Web, in which I'm now the head of business development. And It's been a quite a journey. It's been a lot of learnings. I think crypto has gone through quite a bit of shifts, and we're finally getting to a point where, people can build businesses sustainably within crypto, and whether it's on speculation or just simply now volume via stable coins, there's, fees to capture, on-chain revenue to capture, and also just new experiences to be able to provide to your end consumer. I've been very fortunate enough at Third Web to work with some of the largest companies in crypto directly, managing accounts for ecosystems, top leading developers, and funnily enough, with Revv on the other side, helping manage over 500 creators, over 5 agencies, and help ecosystems bootstrap how they're tracking engagement for their creators that they're working with. So it's been a long journey. There's still a lot to go on, and I'm feeling more bullish than ever today, and I'm sure I'll feel that way every single day that's to come.
More bullish than ever, man. Love to hear it. And I have to agree with so much of what you said. I think there's more opportunity than ever in this space. And this is coming from someone who I've always said, and of course I have a bias, but I just happen to think that the opportunity in Web3 is unmatched. I think if you work hard, if you're a genuine individual, if you're curious, like you said, you touched on, you started with learning. I think those things will benefit you in any industry, but I just happen to think that in Web3, the rewards that come from those attributes are just exponential. And I agree. I think the opportunity is more than ever right now. I mean, look, Bitcoin at all time high, uh, and businesses are more mature. The space is more mature, and that creates more space for people listening to jump in, add some value wherever that may be. Also love that you said you started with learning, because so many times on these spaces, we go back to like, you got to make sure that you like being here, right? Because, if not, you're not going to be motivated to make the team that you're working with better, contribute to that end user that much more if you're not actually, this isn't actually where you want to be. When you think back on like your time since joining Web3, are there any milestones that you're like especially proud of?
Before joining Web3?
Since joining Web3.
Yeah, it's a great question. There's been honestly a lot. I think like the most memorable that I can think of is kind of working closely with Craft World. It's like a game that launched on Ronin, and it was cool because we've been working with them for quite some time, and all of a sudden they kind of just blew up, and it was like now they're seeing 100K DAU. They were just seeing so much volume come in to a point where they were spending like over 100K a day, and just to like kind of be alongside them, meet them in person multiple times, and to be a part of that journey. And the cool thing is that that's just one project, right? We have over 5,000 projects building with Third Web, and so I get to meet a lot of these individuals. I think another really key moment, and this isn't obviously all of these projects and successes are a part of the team, not necessarily just myself, is that we recently launched with American Express. They are using one of our products to deploy NFTs for users on the back end for any time that they use their American Express card on anywhere in the world. And so I think just being a part of some of those launches is like, hey, like we're making very meaningful advancements for the space and showing others what is doable and being a part of that. And I honestly feel that like now more than ever, I am able to take part in, quite literally like economical and like innovative solutions and changes in the world of the internet, which is why I joined in the first place. I wanted to be a part of something innovative and emerging, and wanted to be the leader in that. And right now we're seeing the expansion of X402, what that means for individuals and businesses to implement X402 as a part of their on-chain revenue strategy. And I think that we're going to see so much more and so much more quicker start to happen. The last 4 years have been very difficult for everybody, but I think the next 4 years are going to be the most prosperous times. And there's still going to be a lot of challenges. And I'm very much so looking forward to the day where I can, call a company of mine like super, super successful. And specifically because we provided value back to the community, provided value back to the businesses. And it's something that was created sustainably and not on hype and not on, a pump and dump, which we've seen a lot of. And I see that as well for a lot of, the way that I think about hiring in the space, which is, somebody who's committed in the long term, willing to put in the time, willing to grind, willing to actually learn and understand that they don't know everything, but also be able to take from others and implement that themselves. I pride myself on that personally. And I think it's something that's super important. And a lot of people in crypto are the 1% of the 1% when it comes to, grit and ambition. And it's part of one of the things that has kept me in the space.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm sure it's one of the things that has made you successful in each role and with each team that you contribute to. I mean, it's clear just hearing you speak, bro, like, and every time I've spoken to you in person, like, your commitment to adding value is obvious. It's everywhere you're at. You are committed to adding value to the people in your community and the team that you're a part of. And, we yap on these spaces and we do our best to break down, how to get hired and the different things that go into that. But so, a lot of it is really simple, man. You got to want to add value, and if you do that, again, in an industry like Web3, the opportunity oftentimes does come to you. Um, but speaking of opportunity and creating opportunity on a practical level, and by the way, shout out to you, shout out to the whole Third Web team, American Express partnership. I know you guys are cooking up amazing things, adding value to all the teams that you guys work with. So amazing accomplishments on that side. On a practical level, for people listening, what are some ways to get the conversation actually started with a potential employer in Web3?
Yeah, I would say like the thing that I see the most is getting referred. It's getting referred, getting seen, or like getting kind of headhunted. Getting referred is somebody else who's connected to that person lets you know, hey, like this person could be great for you. That's, number one thing that I've seen in the past. Getting seen, like pushing content on socials, proving that you've been in this space and that you understand what you're talking about, I've seen to be very important and something that I actually focus in on during this like hiring round. And then the last thing is, getting headhunted, which is kind of going back to getting seen, but I think could even be in other ways. Like, for example, I'm going to give a tip for everybody that is trying to get the current BD position that I'm going after. Every single person that I respond with, hit me up next week and let me know, like just hit me up next week. I'm busy at the moment. And that's literally just the first test, which is, is this person able and willing to be so organized to respond back to me? And in that case, it allows for me to then really see if somebody is again organized and has that grit to them that they will reach back. And for those that do, is just gets them 10% of the way there. I have many other tests that I'm sure that I'll kind of put people through, but it is something that you have to kind of go through. And I think a lot of people that, and specifically in business development, don't see through some of these things. It's like a lot of people don't follow up. They're not professional. They take forever to respond. And for business development, that's like the most important things, is to be able to be fast to respond, be able to follow up, and be able to understand the needs. And I'm taking the same approach as to selling any particular service to any, enterprise developer, etc., as to me hiring myself.
That's game, bro. That's game. Appreciate you giving us the alpha here if you're listening. And it's such a simple thing. Hit me up next week. But it tells a lot. It tells a lot about an individual. And again, it's never personal, but it's an important skill to have, to be able to mark on your calendar and actually follow through and send that message again and still want it next week, in a space like crypto where oftentimes sometimes, we can be short sighted and want things right away. And to find somebody that can look beyond 1 week, it's a small test. But I love that. I appreciate that. And great point on the referral, man. I mean, it's such a big thing in Web3. I mean, again, this is applicable in everywhere else as well. But in Web3, it's kind of a two-sided coin. It's awesome, and it's sometimes it can be kind of harder to get referred, but sometimes if you're that kind of person, it's the best thing ever, right? If you're that, you will get noticed. I'm just so confident in that. So When it comes to actually having that conversation, I mean, in previous shows I've called it an interview, but it's oftentimes a little bit more set up, a little bit more. There's a little bit more prep time, or may I say, time to prepare, I guess, on both sides, because it is often so referral based. But when it comes time for that initial conversation, whether it be a more formal interview or maybe a more relaxed conversation because there was a referral prior, how can folks listening make sure that they are prepared to make themselves shine and exemplify all the value that they have to add when it's time for that conversation to take place?
Yeah, I think first of all, it starts off today. Even if you interview tomorrow or you interview a year from now, you start doing the job you want right now. That means if you're looking to be a business developer, start doing business development. Like you're selling yourself. That's really what's happening. I did the same thing before really getting a job in this space. I was on Twitter 24/7 DMing people. I would literally ask people for meetings every single day. I would have 3 meetings without needing to sell anything. I was just there to learn. And so by the time that I got to my first, job, the next thing that I would say is like, you have to be able to communicate your value and communicate what you will do for that person. And, I was able to do that by saying like, hey, over the last year, I've had 400 meetings, right? Like these 400 meetings can benefit your business. And it shows that you're able to capture leads and you're able to move things forward. Now I've learned so much since then of like what's not to do and what to do, but the whole idea is that you got to get started, you got to take action, you got to show and communicate that value. And I think as crypto is so nascent, even to this day, there's so much ability to learn from others. I've recently learned, selling to enterprise is different than just selling to a normal developer, what that cycle looks like, what that means. And, now I have that knowledge. I didn't have that knowledge coming in. And crypto is the best place to grow really quickly and also to learn, on the spot. And you have to be up for those things. You got to be able to take a hit and come back up right away, right? And it's something special that I think not a lot of industries show.
Yeah, well said. I mean, it starts today. It starts today. It starts yesterday. All right. Like you got, and if you want it, it will have already naturally have started. Right. But you also got to push yourself to go that extra 10%. I love that. Um, when it comes to negotiating an offer, there's an offer on the table, and sometimes it's not appropriate to negotiate an offer as well at all. Right. You got to understand that. But when it comes to that offer is on the table, and you're considering whether or not it's a appropriate to negotiate, and B, how to negotiate effectively so that both sides end up walking away with value. What are some tips you have for people listening when it comes to negotiating an offer?
Yeah, I think I'm really bad at this, if I'm being honest, and the reason why is because I don't think of um, reward as a linear thing. I would rather take less to learn more. I've done this in every single role that I've been a part of. I've always been offered, in some cases, I've been offered 50% of more than I was going to be making at this job that I was going to take. But this job that I would take, I would be learning 100% more. And, I've always taken those opportunities to just be a part of where I'll learn the most, and it has really paid off. And you can kind of see that in the first 6 months of really taking those roles and positions. And so for me, it's like, hey, what really do you want? If you're in it just for the money, then I would say like, yes, negotiate for what you want, right? If you're at 200 and somebody is at 150, try to get them to 175. But if you're looking at it for a learning perspective, which is what I would encourage anybody to, I would take the number that they're giving you. Are you able to live, on a day to day with that? And, are you able to learn? And with the goal of getting to 200, right? If you really are worth that much, getting to 200 instead of just asking for it upfront because you showed off your work and you showed commitment and you actually were able to execute is for me, I think, what I would encourage people. Like, yes, negotiate what you can, especially as you know your value more. But if you're still getting started and learning, I would say, take what is offered and more importantly, like ask for more responsibility, even if you're not going to get paid for that responsibility. That will lead to you getting paid more naturally. and will lead for you to get it paid more in the future as well. And so would highly recommend kind of thinking about it in that lens. And that's, again, kind of what I've been approaching it with.
I appreciate that humility in terms of like saying, you're not the best at it. And I absolutely resonate with that so hard. It's because I think you can relate to this. I'm a very grateful person. You know what I'm saying? I think I'm very honored when someone puts an offer on the table and they genuinely see value and worth. And I also appreciate your point of looking at the offer beyond just the dollar sign. All right. Looking at it holistically. What does this bring to me and my life and my experience in this space, and what I can add to it and what I can learn beyond just the dollar sign, which we know is important. We all got to pay bills. So obviously don't accept less than you need to pay bills, right? But beyond that, have a holistic view of what the offer is. And if you're lucky enough to, potentially in an example where you have multiple offers, you know, consider all the aspects of what's being put on the table, beyond just the bottom line. And you can find that you will oftentimes be heavily rewarded. And again, only you can make those decisions. Only you can make those decisions for you. So you got to know what you want, like Juan just said. There's a million different ways. This is a really general question. So, just answer however feels right. But how do you define success in the roles that you've contributed to and are contributing to?
At first I defined success as like vibes. It was like, wow, I'm vibing. Like, this is good because I'm like giving positive vibes to this like business. And then I realized really quickly that vibes doesn't get you anywhere. Like, vibes is great maybe to get you kickstarted. Vibes is great to get somebody to notice you, but at the end of the day, it's always going to come back to numbers. There was a point in my career at Third Web where it was like the first 2 months in, and I had moved, about $1,000 in MRR, and the conversation was, hey, like, there isn't much happening here, and if there's not much happening, then it's going to be very difficult to say that we should keep you on. And it was like, that was a wake-up call. It's like, I'm having so many meetings, but like nothing is happening. Like, what is happening? And that changed my mentality from being, vibes based to being numbers based. Like, what numbers can you provide? Like, you can give inputs, matter as much as outputs. And, if you're able to show somebody like, hey, but I did this, this, and that is way better than just vibing and saying like, oh yeah, I had a lot of meetings this week. It's like, how many meetings did you have? How many follow-up tasks did you have? How many did you close? Like, what did you learn? And so I would say like that is what I base my success on now is, what are the inputs, and the outputs I have no control over, but I have control over the inputs. And so, tracking that week over week gives me an idea of saying like, hey, last week I actually did 20% more outreach than I did this week. What happened, right? Like, how do I change that for next week? How do I get better? And it's always about improving.
Dude, props to you for being the kind of individual that, has that conversation with your team and takes it as a way to move forward and improve, right? Because I think there's a big lesson in that, and being that kind of person and not allowing it to, discourage you to a point where you're like, you're trying less hard. You actually were like, okay, you know what? That's solid feedback. I can work with that. Now, what can I do on my end in terms of, like you said, inputs to change the outputs to a more favorable outcome for all of us? And numbers don't lie, man. Right? At the end of the day, like you said, I really appreciate, vibes only get you so far, and they are important. But numbers do not lie, and you want to be able to show results for your team that you're doing what you said you were going to do and beyond, right? And then for when the day comes that you go beyond this team, you also can't really represent your vibes on your resume very well to the next team, right? So you want to have numbers on that resume, on your accomplishments list or portfolio, whatever it is, that you can go show the next team and say, hey, this is what I did, this is what I can do for you, and here's how I can do it even better. So great points. We're almost at the end of our show here. A lot of game dropped by our guy Juan here. Really appreciate him stopping by. Shout out to Thomas. Shout out to Tim in the audience. I see you. Shout out to anybody listening to the recording, whether that's here on X, YouTube, or Spotify. We appreciate you. Juan, what are some differences that people should consider or note or maybe be aware of in terms of working in traditional Web 2 compared to Web 3, whether that be in culture, whether that be in work-life balance, whether that be in vibes, communication? What are some things you can share with people listening that you've learned that may be worth noting or considering for people, looking to make the transition into Web 3?
Yeah, so I haven't been able to work in a Web 2 job. But I think like in Web 3, what I've learned is that if from hearing others in Web 2, that the knowledge that you have from a quote unquote crypto native is actually really, really, really important. It's a different language. We all speak a different language than individuals outside of crypto. And if you can show that you know the language, like for example, I can go out anywhere now and it really break down how somebody is interacting on chain and if it makes sense and give them an idea of like, hey, you're thinking about doing this, but that actually doesn't work super well. You should be thinking about doing this instead. I have that down from like an infrastructure standpoint, and now I'm pushing even more so to learn about that on like a marketing standpoint, and now especially because we have Kalashi and Polymarket, their main sources of revenue, as everybody knows, is trading, and that's on-chain revenue, that's volume fees. And what are they currently doing is like their main go-to-market strategy is hiring crypto Twitter influencers, and crypto Twitter influencers. Why? Well, it's because crypto Twitter influencers influence crypto users. And so why do you want that? It's because crypto users trade a lot. And ideally, you're able to capture some of that mind share to then be able to, get more money. And I think that there is a lot to learn there from on-chain revenue to on-chain marketing and what that means for on-chain analytics and audience segmentation. And so just being crypto native and understanding, these things of like what kind of information can you capture on chain? Who are the main players of on chain analytics and infrastructure? These are all very valuable things that once everybody starts realizing that they need to be building out their own on chain revenue strategy, crypto natives will be top of mind. And, we've already seen that with some of the top companies coming into the space already. And I would say, learning about the culture, learning about the technology on a deeper level is the most meaningful thing that you can do for your career at the moment.
Dude, that's a trip to hear you say that, you've only ever worked in Web 3. Like that is so cool. Like that's so cool. And like, I'm sure you're not the only one. And it just shows how much this space is evolving. And that's going to become more and more common. Uh, and again, I mean, the cliche term of mass adoption, but that's what it looks like. It's like you went straight from school into Web3. And that's been, you are crypto native, but that's also just been always what you've done. Right. So, and absolutely, yeah, I agree with like the value that comes from just speaking this language and that how you can leverage that to succeed for yourself personally, but also help others succeed. And the example you bring up with the prediction markets is a great one. Again, a lot of game you've dropped in these last 30 minutes. For people listening, what is like a 30-second, 1 minute piece of advice that you can share on getting hired in Web3 or advancing your career in Web3?
Yeah, it's easy. I'll give it to you in 5 seconds. Be curious and ask questions. That's all you need. Work hard.
Be curious, ask questions, and work hard. And you're exactly an example of that. I mean, you started this conversation telling us that you started by learning. So bring it back full circle.
Exactly.
Be curious, work hard, keep it simple, man. Just keep it simple and do those things and you will succeed. Juan, it's been an absolute pleasure, bro. Every time I get to, I mean, I think this is the first time we shared this Twitter space, but every time I get to see you in person, vibe at events, it was great meeting you the first time. And, you're a legend. So I appreciate you taking time. I know you're a busy man, but I want to ask you one more question for people listening. By the way, this is at JRP_GG for those on YouTube, on Spotify, and listening to the recording. How can people listening support you and the teams that you contribute to?
Man, go make something in Web3. Go build something. We need more builders in the space. We need more people experimenting, and I would highly encourage anybody to take a look at what's happening in the space, learn, and go build. I can really care less about a follow. I care more about pushing the space forward. And if you ever need help doing so, feel free to DM me. I'm the most active on Telegram. My at there is Juan Vera Perez. And thanks, man. Yeah, it's always great to chat, and looking forward to connecting soon on the island.
Soon enough, brother. You're the man. Appreciate you. Thank you again. Everybody listening, shout out Thomas, shout out Tim. Make sure you show love to Juan. Give him a follow. Shoot him a message on Telegram if there's anything you're curious about. Show love to Third Web. We got a tweet pinned up from them up top. Show love to Revv GG. There's the second most recent pin tweet is from them right up top. And then also Third Web is hiring. So this is a space on how to get hired in Web3. Third Web, a legitimate team with legitimate funding and legitimate goals to push this space forward, is hiring. And who knows? Maybe that's you or somebody you know. So tap in. And thank you so much for stopping by this episode of Cup of Joe with Web3Joe. Until next time, ladies and gentlemen, we appreciate you. We're rooting for you, and we will see you soon. Juan, thank you again, bro. Have a blessed day.
Cheers, brother.